So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to the organizers to invite me, to giving me the opportunity to talk to you this morning at the opening of this very important event. I'm sorry I don't see you, but I'm sure you see me. So this morning I'll give you a brief introduction of the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. I must say that I feel a bit, how do you say, I don't want to be redundant. You saw my former boss, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who already told you a lot. So I hope I will not be redundant. But I'll try to give you some more details about the SDGs. And then also, I'll try to give you some information about our office, UNOSD, which stands for United Nations Office for Sustainable Development. We're based in Incheon. And our partners are the Ministry of Environment, Yonsei University, and Incheon City. And then I will try to give you some hints on the interlinkages between the SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, and the CSR activities. And so to go beyond, the conventional CSR, and hoping that we can work together, as Mr. Ban Ki-moon said, towards the achievement of the SDGs. Now, sorry, I have to find. I think I didn't find the pointer. Is this the pointer? No. Yeah. Okay. It's on. So, did you know that some of you were not maybe born at that time, but in 1987, there was a Brundtland report which stated that, sustainable development needed to get the integration of three pillars that are interrelated, dimension of sustainable development, namely the social, the economic, and the environmental issues together. Since then, however, those three pillars have not been looked at them in a, let's say, equitable manner or balanced way, if you will. And then in September 2000, maybe some of you have heard about the MDGs, or the Millennium Development Goals. This was meant to be, it was a big or global partnership to reduce extreme poverty with a deadline of 2015. So as you may know, the MDGs, which some people qualified as the development agenda, comprised 8 goals and 21 targets. And they were covering a wide spectrum of of issues. For example, we had the environment, which you see number 7 on the screen, the bottom right. They also include, it was meant to ensure environmental sustainability, I guess you can see, but also include issues like access to water and sanitation, and improving the lives of 100 million slum dwellers. Now, we're in September 2015, where 183 UN member states came together to adopt the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And those build upon the successes and also the failure, or the unfinished job of the MDGs, if you will. The SDGs integrate, as I say, the unfinished job of the MDGs, but also we have new issues or new areas thematic areas to work. Like, of course, we have when I'm talking about the MDG, you have MDG 1. So you have the working on eradicating poverty and hunger. Well, they also integrate issues like climate change, energy, biodiversity, industry, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable consumption and production, work and economic growth, as well as sustainable urbanization. The SDGs are a universal call to all the rich, poor, middle-income countries for action. They're part of an integrated system where the SDGs are linked with other SDGs in such a way to stimulate action over 15 years. Just want to tell you now we're about 11 years to the 2030, even less. And then there were 5 areas of critical importance. Some people refer to them as the 5 Ps. So for people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Here we have the people's goal, 1 to 7. So poverty, hunger, health and well-being, quality of education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, and affordable and clean energy. Then comes the prosperity goals, goals 8 to 12. So decent work in economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production. Then the planet goals follow with climate action, life below water, and life on land. Goal 16, then, is the peace and justice goal. And finally, the partnership goal, the goal 17, to work all together to realize the SDGs. So many people ask me which goal is more important, and actually they're all important. And not only they're all important, but they're all interconnected. So even, the 169 targets, some of them will serve multiple goals at the same time. It's a bit difficult to see this. So I give you maybe a chart that is a bit complicated still. But if you think about the big dots on this screen, and then you can see these are the SDGs. You see the smaller dots, these are the targets. And then as you can see, most of the goals are connected through their targets. So that's the mechanics of it, if you will. And this is the result of the political process. All the 193 member states negotiating about this. But of course, there's other ways of seeing it. For example, here you have the social and the science vision about how the SDGs connect together. It's a bit more complicated, but this is a way to let you see and to let you know and understand that depending even of some different member states, if you're a landlocked country, maybe you don't care so much about the ocean. However, you probably should. But some of the goals are not your priorities. And even if you're an individual, maybe you will, or some other groups, and of course the business group also will see this differently. Like there's a way of prioritizing according to your needs and your own priorities at the same time. Now I want to ask you one question. I don't see you, sorry, with the light. But this is something, this is a work of art I saw in one of the museums here in downtown Seoul. And I don't know if I can hear you, but I would like to ask you if you see some interconnections or SDGs through this image. There are many, and then to give you a tip, there's no wrong response, or is anyone can tell me one SDG that he or she sees there? No? Sorry, I don't see anyone. So anyway, this is a work of art, and then I think students, they wrote, and they finally they wrote on the plastics messages, and I think it's related well to the SDGs. If I give you a tip, one can say that it's related to goal 14, life below water. Can also relate it to goal 12, responsible consumption and production. Then, of course, you can see the goal 14, life below water, in this picture, but you can also see goal 12, about responsible consumption and production. And of course, again, responsible in consumption, as I don't know if you see, yeah, I'm sure you see well, but this is a bird with all the plastics. He got a dead bird. So it's also related, of course, to goal 15 on life on land. But then, there's other linkages, like goal 2, which is zero hunger. But at the same time, if you consider food security as also hitting healthy and not contaminated food. Of course, you can think about the connection also to good health and well-being. And then you may also say, this is really related to goal 10 about reduced inequalities, because at the same time, if you think about all these islands of plastics, now they call them continents, floating in the ocean. Many small island developing states live from the sea. No, they're stuck, or they're struck by this issue, and which they did not create for most of the part. But then they live with it. So maybe it's also related to that. And I'd like to tell you, it's a bit of a personal story, but I think it's very ironic, because personally I'm trying to, because I'm talking about the SDGs, so I'm trying to reduce my ecological footprint. I'm trying to eat less meat. I'm trying to eat organic food. I'm trying to eat more fish. I'm sorting my waste according to the regulations and in my neighborhood, so I consider myself as a good citizen. But then it is very shocking to me to find out that those, even by doing what I should do as a citizen, responsible citizen, at the end those plastic bags and bottles and then the pollution created, they strike me back, actually. So and then they end up in the food chain now, and then even in our plates and beyond. So to me, I see it as a message that even when we work towards the SDGs, Ban Ki-moon talked about, CSR, it's not only to get great conscience or good conscience. I mean, we can't escape the problem. We can go to fancy restaurant, but then still we don't know what we're eating at the end. I don't mean to say anything against, but that's the reality today. What the pollution we're creating, the way we have developed over the years, are hitting us back now, and we can't avoid it. So I don't want to be too heavy, so I'll change the subject a little bit. And I'll be talking about other interlinkages with other SDGs. Now I want to talk about energy, for instance. Energy is very much interconnected to the 3 dimensions or pillars of sustainable development. Of course, I name it again, the environment, economic, and the social aspects of sustainable development. And also related to the other SDGs, as you can see. And here are a few. This is again, this is a vision of one group looking at it. If you make your own chart, you will maybe find other interconnections. Then I want to say about target 7.1 on universal access. By the way, goal 7 has 3 targets. So this one, 7.1, universal access to modern energy services. Did you know that 1/3 of the world population has no access to modern sustainable energy? The proportion of the world population with access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking, such as solid fuels, it has increased from 51% in 2000 to 58% in 2014. However, the absolute number of people relying on pollutant fuels and technologies for cooking, such as fuels and kerosene, has actually increased. Now it is estimated to have reached 3 billion people. One thing is important, you see on the screen, it's mainly in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and Asia. And the little progress that was made in, mostly in cities. Now I want to talk about what we call the energy health nexus, or interconnection, if you will. Around 4.3 million people are dying prematurely every year due to indoor pollution resulting from cooking and heating with unsustainable fuels. This causes more death than malaria, HIV/AIDS, and tuberculosis altogether. Now, talking about energy and education nexus. As you may know, in many developing countries, children don't have access to education, or they cannot do their homework at night because of the light. They don't have energy, proper energy for lighting. The energies and the city nexus. Today, the world's cities occupied 2 to 3% of the Earth's land. But cities account for 60 to 80% of the global energy consumption and generate as much as 75% of the energy-related greenhouse gas emissions. If we look at building alone, those account for more than 40% of the global energy use and for about 30% of the energy-related greenhouse gas emission. Now I shift to another theme. I want to talk about our office. So our office was established, as I said, in 2011. It was with the government of Korea and the United Nations, a partnership. And I told you earlier, our partners are the Ministry of Environment, Yonsei University, and the city of Incheon. What do we do? What are we and what do we do? So basically, we support the UN member states by providing assistance in planning and implementing strategies and tracking progress towards sustainable development. For instance, through knowledge exchange, research, and policy analysis, capacity development, and building and nurturing partnership. We're doing policy research, for example, with partners such as the United Nations University. In this case, what I show here, it's a series of research reports that we produced on water-related issues. We also have capacity development activities. Some of them, like is the SDTF, Sustainable Development Transformation Forum. We had, for many years, we had this every year, and now we have one, we'll have the 6th forum taking place in October, the 22nd to the 24th. And that is very interesting because this one is really bringing together the policymakers, the academics, the representative of the private sector and the civil society to discuss the most pressing issues related to sustainable development. And maybe I take this opportunity to invite you to this forum. If you're interested, please contact us and we'll invite you to this forum because we want to have also the private sector and the business sector to participate to this this event. We also have the FFRE, what we call like the fossil fuel to renewable energy transition forum. So we had a few one happening. We had one in Mauritius, in Kenya in 2014. The last one we had was in Latin America, in Costa Rica last November. We also have International Mayors Forum, and we had one in Vientiane, so when in Asia, we tried to move around. We had one in Africa, in Lilongwe, Malawi, last year in May, and we are now organizing one in November in Ecuador. So then we come back next year in Asia, and we are now discussing with Incheon City to have the next one in 2020. Taking place in Incheon. Now I want to talk, if you allow me, about the interlinkage of the SDGs with the CSR activities, of course from my point of view, or our point of view. So you know that the private sector, as Ban Ki-moon said, earlier in the video, the private sector plays a vital role in achieving the SDGs. Governments cannot do it alone. They need a civil society, they need the academics, but also need the private sector to play its role there. So, at the same time, the SDGs can serve as a tool for the private sector to measure and improve their performance. Because CSR is not a matter just of giving money, having good conscience. It's also to be, business should be also efficient in their CSR activities. So in a study of more than 700 companies across 21 countries and territories, it was found that 72% mentioned the SDGs in their disclosed reporting. However, maybe only 27% integrated the goals in their business strategy. So there's some work to do. Most of the companies studied massively prioritized SDG 8, 13, 12, 3, and 9. So according to the sectors, companies have different priorities, but most of them prioritized Goal 8 on decent work and economic growth, Goal 13 on climate change action, Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, Goal 3 on good health and well-being, and Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. I would find it very interesting, for me, but also maybe for you, to look at the SDGs and try to prioritize them and see what are the ones that you prioritize. I'm giving you an example of the Deutsche Bahn This is to show how some businesses are integrated the SDGs in their for the private sector in their strategy. For instance, this company, the German railroad company, the Deutsche Bahn, is a signatory of the UN Global Compact. I'll come back on this. So, and then they work on, prioritize SDG 8, 9, 11, 12, 3, 13, decent work, economic growth, industry, innovation, infrastructure, sustainable cities, responsible consumption and production, good health and well-being, and climate action. This, as the largest provider of railway service in Germany, the company committed itself to measures in the field of climate action in particular, and aims to fully operate its train with renewable energy by 2038. Another case study here is the GB Financial Group. In 2018, they joined the UN Global Compact. And to achieve the SDGs, the GB Financial Group, beside integrating the SDGs into their business value chain and energy operation, everyday operation, they support also several social contribution activities. In 2018, the Danish jewelry Pandora partnered with the Youth Fashion Summit, an initiative spearheaded by the United Nations Global Compact. The summit challenged students from all over the world to create framework for the fashion industry on how to reach SDG 3, health and well-being, and SDG 5, gender equality. Another group, the HMM Sustainable Fashion Project here. So basically, their vision is to democratize fashion and lead the change towards a circular and renewable fashion industry while being a fair and equal company. To achieve its goal, the H&M Group holds regular dialogues with different stakeholders, such as customers, colleagues, communities, suppliers, industry peers, non-governmental organizations known as NGOs, and intergovernment organizations, IGOs, policymakers and investors. The H&M Group builds partnerships with other fashion brands, global trade unions, academics, researchers, as well as ILO. ILO is International Labor Organization, the WWF, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and Solidaridad, which I assume, I think this is in Latin America. Stella McCartney, you all know her, she's the daughter of Paul McCartney, and she has a fashion business. And she has been a long time advocating for sustainable, ethical fashion. I'm done. So she's part of 43 major brands that have signed the UN Fashion Industry Center for Climate Action, which aims to have fashion industry operating in a net zero emissions by the year 2050. It's the first worldwide agreement to reduce environmental impact of the fashion industry. Now, if you ask me how should be the CSR, how they should change, I believe that the approach that corporation function first and foremost to serve their shareholders and maximize profits is outdated. Instead, they should invest in employees, delivering value to customers, dealing ethically with suppliers, and supporting outside communities. And this should be at the forefront of the corporation business model goals. An increased number in companies and institutions following this approach is observed around the world. And I guess that's the reason why I'm invited here today, because you are interested in this. And then, for instance, there was a business roundtable, a group of CEOs of 200 major US corporations. They issued a statement in these lines just a month ago. So takeaways, conclusions and takeaways. Every CSR activity contributes to the achievement of the SDGs. However, they should be efficient as the business is. Implementing SDGs into the business strategy is not limited to CSR activities. The entire organization can make meaningful contribution. Already 13,661 companies and organizations have joined the UN Global Compact, and among those, almost 250 are from Korea. That was in August. There are plenty of opportunities to engage with the UN. You can engage with us, of course. We are here for this. You can sign the UN Global Compact. And there are other engagement that you can find at business.un.org. Now, I just want to talk quickly about the UN Global Compact. So the guide for corporate sustainability emphasizes the 5 main characteristics: principled business, strengthened society, leadership commitment, reporting progress, and local action. And they also have 10 principles of the UN Compact on human rights. So business should support and respect the protection of international proclaimed human rights, make sure that they are not complicit in human rights abuse. In terms of labor, businesses should uphold the freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining, the elimination of all forms of forced compulsory labor, the effective abolition of child labor, the elimination of discrimination in respect of employment and occupation. In terms of the environment, business should support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges, undertake initiatives to promote greater environmental responsibility, and encourage the development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. Finally, anti-corruption. Business should work against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery. Thank you very much. I want to wish you the best with the whole, in the whole duration of this very important meeting that will in the next 3 days and even beyond. Thank you.